Every wild creature runs a danger evaluation, operating continuously beneath the surface. Rate of advance, angle, eye contact. The calculation completes faster than conscious thought, and the conclusion is nearly always identical. Move away from the human right now. This is not taught through experience. It operates even in species that have never crossed paths with a human before. Verified under controlled laboratory settings, confirmed across many separate wildlife studies. The danger reaction to humans seems to be wired in at a level beyond personal experience. It is passed down. When we free a trapped creature, slicing the net, dragging it from the mud, releasing it from the snare, we tend to assume the creature recognizes what's occurring. The research indicates something different. Something else is unfolding, and scientists who have devoted careers to studying it are still figuring out what to name it. Begin first with what entrapment does to the body. The instant a wild creature loses the capacity to move, its physiology shifts into a state with no true human parallel. Cortisol floods the bloodstream. Adrenaline rises to levels that would prove fatal if maintained for more than a couple minutes. Pulse rate doubles, then doubles once more. A study in the European Journal of Wildlife Research discovered that hooved animals caught in fencing display higher cortisol levels than creatures wounded by gunfire or hit by vehicles, higher than being shot. The body is depleting every reserve available, activating every emergency system simultaneously, doing exactly what creatures have done in instances like this for far longer than the species has existed, waiting to perish or struggling until it...
From the exterior, this condition has a particular appearance. Pupils completely widened, muscles stiff, not strained the way an anxious creature is strained, but frozen, the way a body freezes when it has dedicated everything to one outcome. The mouth might part slightly, breathing turns shallow and rapid. Wildlife caretakers describe it as the creature drifting elsewhere, still existing in the body, but no longer focused on anything besides the immediate danger. So when a human approaches a trapped creature, the creature does not perceive rescuer. It perceives the approach of an apex hunter at the worst conceivable instant. This explains clearly why the struggling intensifies the nearer you come. The creature's alarm system reads closeness as the closing stage of a chase. It expends its final energy on the sole reaction its lineage has ever supplied it. And then, in certain of these encounters, something changes. The creature becomes motionless, not from fatigue, something more intentional than that. The change is observable when it occurs. Field scientists and wildlife caretakers who have witnessed it describe a particular shift. The stiff, frozen body relaxes slightly. The desperate movement halts, and the creature turns, not from the human, toward them. It maintains that posture and observes. In December 2005, a crab fisherman discovered a female humpback whale caught in rope lines 18 miles off San Francisco. The ropes were tangled around her mouth, her pectoral fins, her tail. 12 crab traps, 90 pounds apiece, hung from her body and dragged her downward. She was struggling continuously merely to keep her blowhole above water. A rescue crew arrived within hours. 4 divers entered the water carrying curved blades, aware a single involuntary movement from her tail could end any of them. She stopped moving the instant they entered the water. For over an hour, she held position at the surface while the divers worked along her body. At several moments, she shifted her own position, turning, extending a fin, adjusting her angle in ways that gave the divers easier access to the lines they were cutting. A 50-foot, 50-ton creature chose to remain still while strangers wielding blades worked across her body.
The explanation researchers prefer relates to threat pattern recognition. A hunter closing in moves quickly with aggression, shortening distance in a straight line. That particular movement pattern is what a trapped creature's alarm system has been tuned to recognize across millions of years of evolution. A human attempting to assist moves differently, gradually, without abrupt gestures, touching the trap rather than the creature, generating no sounds that match anything in the threat repertoire. The brain scans its complete catalog of threat signatures and returns nothing. With no familiar pattern to react to, the crisis response halts. The creature waits. In Yellowstone, a research crew discovered a wolf in a leg-hold trap. The wolf lunged and snapped at every approach, precisely what the biology forecasts. One scientist halted movement and maintained eye contact with the creature, without glancing away. Eye contact between hunter and prey carries particular significance in mammal communication. A hunter approaching to kill does not usually sustain steady eye contact. It tracks the prey's movement, follows the body, computes. Sustained direct eye contact that doesn't come with aggression or movement is a signal that falls outside the usual predator-threat pattern. Some scientists believe it might register as a form of social connection rather than a hunting stance. The creature's alarm system, already scanning for a pattern matching a predator, encounters something it wasn't designed to categorize. After several minutes, the wolf stopped lunging. It sat. It held the eye contact in return. When the crew began working on the trap, the wolf watched their hands. When the trap released, it remained still for a moment, looked straight at the scientist, then walked into the tree line. Field scientists describe this as suspension of threat response, rather than anything more significant. The alarm system doesn't shut down. It loses its reference point. The anticipated sequence of predator behavior never appears, and the crisis response has nothing to attach to. The tougher question is, what occurs once the trap opens? When the final rope was cut from the humpback off the Farallon Islands, she circled wide around the divers before surfacing next to each one separately, nudging them with the tip of her jaw one after another before moving to the next. James Mosquito, one of the divers, described it to the San Francisco Chronicle as feeling like gratitude. Scientists are cautious with that term. Humpbacks do engage with divers under certain circumstances, and behavior following severe physiological stress is difficult to interpret cleanly. Yet humpback whales possess spindle neurons, the same specialized brain cells found in humans, great apes, and elephants, linked to empathy and quick social decision-making. These cells were once believed to exist solely in primates. The whale has the neurological structure for the kind of processing that moment would demand. Whether she employed it that afternoon off San Francisco is something the data cannot confirm. Young elephants pulled from mud pits in Kenya have been recorded making physical contact with the people who freed them, trunk to hand, trunk to arm, before moving off. The trunk contact carries weight. An elephant's trunk is its main sensory organ. It holds more than 40,000 individual muscles and carries a concentration of nerve endings comparable to human fingertips. When an elephant reaches its trunk to touch something purposefully, it is not an idle gesture. It is an inspection. Researchers in elephant rescue settings have observed that the creatures sometimes hold the contact for several seconds, the trunk resting against the rescuer's arm or hand before pulling back. The touch is slow and seems deliberate in a manner that sets it apart from reflexive contact. Elephants grieve their dead, recognize themselves in mirrors, and retain social memories across decades. They have been seen returning to the bones of deceased companions and touching them with their trunks, family members sometimes that died years earlier. The mental capacity to differentiate between a human who caused injury and one who ended it is not something elephants lack. Some scientists go further. They note that elephants in documented rescue situations have been seen staying near the humans who freed them for longer than any threat suspension explanation. The danger is gone. The creature is free. There is no biological cause to stay. And yet several documented cases show elephants standing near their rescuers for minutes after release, not fleeing, not grazing, simply present, before eventually moving off. The honest response to whether creatures know when a human is trying to help them is that we truly don't know. What the evidence shows is that certain creatures, cetaceans, elephants, wolves, measurably suspend their threat response when a calm human moves around them without escalating. What happens after rescue in some of these creatures includes turning toward the rescuer, making deliberate contact, and behaviors that serve no clear survival purpose. What the evidence cannot reach is the inside of those encounters. What it is to be the wolf standing at the tree line, watching the people who freed it walk back to their vehicles. What the whale was doing when she moved from diver to diver in that cold water. Whether any of it meant something to her, or whether we find meaning in these moments because we too are creatures running pattern recognition. And the pattern we keep discovering is our...
There is a version of this question that science will eventually resolve more precisely. The tools are improving. Neuroimaging and citations, long-term behavioral tracking in elephant populations, more rigorous documentation protocols in wildlife rescue. The evidence will build up. Some of what is currently unclear will grow clearer. The scientists who study this most closely keep the question open. The creatures don't respond.